So I had listened to that Elastigirl prequel novel as an audiobook one day when I'd called off sick from work, and a pretty considerable plot hole had opened up. Let me ask you a simple question. What exactly is the canonical order of events of the superhero team known as the Thrilling Three? I have a theory about this, and I think it kind of decanonizes the whole prequel novel entirely. Now, that's not what this video is actually going to be about. It's not going to be about the prequel novel or anything. It's going to be about the Thrilling Three and trying to cover some of the unknowns about that team. More specifically, Dynakai. Let's rewind a bit and put a couple things into perspective, and we will start by visiting part of the opening act of the movie, the prologue, if you will. Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl get married, and the film is quick to move on, showing how supers begin facing lawsuits for damages. Now, hold on a second. Let's pause and rewind to the wedding. Do you see who's in the crowd? That's right, Gazerbeam and a few other supers from the No Capes scene. Also, there are a few others in the background. Probably civilians, probably not. They could just be other supers who are out of costume. If I had to take some guesses, the redhead guy is probably Hypershock, and the bald dude in the yellow is maybe Downburst. But that's besides the point. The point is that there are other supers attending the wedding. Now, you might not think much of it. In fact, you might just think that the animators used the same supers because they already had the models animated for the no cape scene and just threw them in the background for the sake of efficiency. And you know what? That's fair enough. Because for years, every time I watched the movie, that's what I assumed too. But what if I told you that one particular super being in the audience nearly breaks the continuity of the timeline? Would you believe me? I didn't believe it at first, and in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody has made a video talking about this. Take a look at the audience again. Who do you exactly see aside from Gazerbeam? That's right, Dynaguy. You know, the one that Mr. Incredible name drops for wanting a new suit just like his because of how classic it is. The same Dynaguy who had his cape snag on takeoff, contributing to the movie's most comedically dark scene. Yes, that Dynaguy. So what? He's probably just a friend of Mr. Incredible. How's him being in the wedding a big deal? Well, let me tell you why. And no, it isn't some easily dismissible continuity error either. Prepare to have your perception of the Incredibles timeline completely shattered. At least partially. Okay, so full disclaimer here, this doesn't really have any impact or the main plot of what we see in the movie, but it does, however, impact what we don't see, which is the 15-year gap between the prologue and the main plot. And that's what like 90% of the theories for this movie are about anyway. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is fair game for a topic to talk about. So, back to my main point. Dynaguy is present at the wedding. Again, so what? Well, to answer this, let's take a look at some of the movie's bonus content. For anybody who doesn't know, the bonus disc in the DVD set includes a little something known as the NSA files. If you have the DVD set and have not checked this out yet, I highly recommend you do so. It is full of all kinds of cool info about the other supers, and if you don't have the DVD set, the files are available to watch on YouTube as well. So please, if you have not seen any of this stuff about the NSA files, please go watch that first before continuing to listen to the rest of this theory. But I'm going to continue on as if you have seen the bonus content. So, what do we actually know about Dynaguy? Quite a bit, actually. He's reckless in nature and has the forehead disintegration ray powers to match. What else do we know about him? He used to lead a team known as the Thrilling Three. So, what exactly does this imply? We'll come back to that. Trust me on this one. So, let's go back again to that scene just after the wedding. Besides Mr. Incredible, who's another super that was name dropped on screen for having a lawsuit filed against them? That's right, Dynaguy. And for public endangerment, no less. Yikes. But why did the animators intentionally include this bit in the film? The answer to this question lies within the bonus content. It's pretty fitting once you consider his NSA file literally says he is reckless and on a meditation program. Or should I say he was on a meditation program, because at some point after he got sued, he had an almost tragically befitting suit malfunction. So, yeah. But keep in mind, what people seem to be overlooking is the fact that this had to have happened during what I will be referring to as the lawsuit era. So, do you know what this also implies? That's right, it's time to connect some dots. So, when we look back at the wedding scene, Gazerbeam is also in the audience. Let me ask the same question. What exactly do we know about Gazerbeam? To be more specific, what do we know about Gazerbeam that isn't shown or told to us about him in the movie? Again, this leads us back to the NSA files. We know that after Dynaguy has a suit malfunction post lawsuit, Gazerbeam takes up the mantle as the new leader of the Thrilling Three. Now, let me re emphasize something. This is also happening during the lawsuit era, and it's been right in front of our eyes the whole time. So while supers are in the midst of legal battles, and right after the Thrilling Three loses their leader, who steps in? That's right, it's the pro bono lawyer and superhero rights advocate, laser visioned man himself, Gazerbeam. Can we just take a moment and appreciate how hectic this guy's schedule must have been? Simon J. Palladino was not only juggling being a lawyer and an advocate for his superhero brethren, he was also juggling the responsibility of leading a team with two other supers that included a solar powered narcissist, Apogee, as well as the world's least favorite superhero, Phalange. Honestly, that combination of superheroes on a team sounds even more chaotic than Beta Force did, on paper at least. So, depending on how much time has actually passed between the wedding scene, Dynaguy's lawsuit, his suit malfunction, and Gazerbeam stepping up to lead the Thrilling Three, we can't say for certain how long that team actually lasted for, but I can imagine it wasn't for very long, considering the snippet interviews for Apogee, Gazerbeam, and Phalange's NSA files were done at some point between the disbanding of the Thrilling Three and the enactment of the Super Relocation Program. So, in the end, Gazerbeam ultimately failed to juggle that many responsibilities at once, but no shame there. He probably did his best just by having a personality type that likely didn't fit well with his colleagues. Given the way Apogee and Phalange talk about the Thrilling Three's disbandment, perhaps it isn't unfair to say that Gazerbeam was simply a bad pick for the team despite him being a good person overall. In their interviews, Apogee and Phalange don't even mention Dynaguy, let alone imply that the team was in a bad state before Gazerbeam stepped in. I think this further supports my take on it, but I just wish one of the interview snippets would have mentioned Dynaguy's time in the Thrilling Three. I think that would have provided a lot more clarification. And honestly, this is about where the topic I wanted to discuss in the video ends, and where this theory starts becoming more about Gazerbeam than it is about Dynaguy. But I think it's proven beyond doubt that the order of some of these events we know about didn't exactly happen when we thought they did, or at least in the order we thought they did. When you really think about it, Gazerbeam could have been part of the Phantasmics when Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl got married, or in the middle of going solo between his time in the Phantasmics and stepping up for the Thrilling Three. And like I said before, this doesn't really have any impact on the main story of the film, but I still thought the tiny details of the wedding scene and the Dynaguy lawsuit and the implications of Gazerbeam stepping up to lead a team amidst an era of legal troubles is worth discussing. I mean, if we were ever to get a miniseries set in the Incredibles universe, I think this is what I would want it to be about. I want it to be about a superhero who faces struggles both as a superhero team leader and a lawyer. But to wrap up this theory, I want to make sure I emphasize how eye opening it was to me when those dots finally connected. Maybe this is just obvious to some people, but I'd never noticed the implications before about just a few supers in the background of a wedding scene. And this movie is over 2 decades old. This just goes to show how much there is still to learn about this franchise. And I guess the best way to end this theory video is by stating how much I would love to see more prequel content. I thought the NSA files were rather intriguing when I first discovered them, And Pixar really had a lot of potential in their hands given the borderline cult like following some superheroes, Gamma Jack, have on certain corners of the internet. And it was those NSA files that make theories like this possible. Seriously, I wish more movies had stuff like this. Oh, and I just want to include this little clip at the end because I realized after I finished all the other takes for the audio that I completely forgot to expose what the plot hole in the Elastigirl prequel novel was. And this is like my sixth time trying to do this clip here at the end. So the plot hole that I had noticed was that in the novel, the Thrilling Three had already been disbanded by the time that Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl had even met and started dating. But in the movie, it's pretty clear that Dynaguy is still alive by the time Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl actually get married, and he's still alive after they get married into the lawsuit era. So that's kind of the plot hole I wanted to talk about. And then I realized that I completely forgot to put that earlier in the video. But now here it is. So thank you for listening and bye.